All good. They're always making me more, always adding more responsibility.
This is fun. I all of a sudden supporting
music, but I can't do the word music and the words.
totally. It's good. But yeah.
I'm betting.
Oh yeah, this is fine. It just. I mean, just so well, anything far here. If I'm given notice, that's fine. But, and this is funny or Hebrew spelling that I see. Notre Dame. Yeah, just the OW in there. I mean, it's telling you that it's an O sound, I'm assuming. Ah, oh good. I keep forgetting. It's been half my time trying to get this. This makes sense. Okay, but there's nothing in there. Because it looks like Dow data, which I'm sure it's not. Okay, good. I'll look over that. Did your go to
It's Sunday. We're going to Sunday school and I'm teaching second grade Sunday school.
we do have Yeah, exactly. So if I had the opportunity again. My sense of
So anyway, long story short, I never learned. When my oldest one was
Because you were reading this, not that.
Right. Because my transliteration is bad for me. I don't understand it. I mean, reading the tale in which I know nothing of, the music is easier to me than
Yeah. Well, I think here's what I was wondering. I mean, because music definitely goes this direction. And music goes that direction. So it almost feels like this is obligatory. I would say. And the characters were writing. And the first thing I started writing, in my mind, I was thinking they wrote okay, and just kept my fingers. And because sort of everything's filtered through my own experience, I think, of course they were. Of course they were.
So script looks different than printed. Script looks different than printed. So there's no relationship between the two.
I can't.
Unless you're accustomed to it, it's very hard to read.
Oh, okay. I mean, I really think the only reason I can read books is because I spent so much time in Israel. So, there's a lot of signage. Tori, you want to hear something funny? I mentioned that my brother's girlfriend went to So, I just had to her the other day. I was like, guess what? One of the
So I can't locate the sign, but I was like, I'm like, they just went on and on, right?
she was like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
Like, she wouldn't know me, but I know her.
Yeah.
So my guess is no friends going, what was it?
Maybe that would have been the situation so long. She's like, it's been a long time since she came to school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how long have you been teaching? Oh, okay.
So I mean, probably. I'm guessing you're right.
Yeah, she's
Right? And then it's a no. Okay, so
her name's also so it's like, just one or two.
and I have my last battery.
I feel like that's like a very like devout phrase.
Yeah.
Originality.
I lost my hearing aid about 2 days ago.
There are some more interesting things.
Yeah. It's called bone hearing aid. I stick it, yeah, that's in the bone. And this is like right here. And then it gathers sound here, that's in the bone. And then you can hear, that's right. Yeah, I'm one of those early.
My parents wanted to honor my
So I hear it once because I'm talking about, I just lost somebody, it was a Saturday night and it was like somebody just pulled me over. So then this is why I have to but it's yeah, it helps when I don't have this. Yeah, so I have this
Amazing.
but it's all when you're a singer, you're one side, I've lost this area. I can't locate the sound. So when I was teaching, there was some okay, you have to look up because I can hear you sing, but I have no idea if it's said it. I have no idea. So this helps a little bit. Not still. Yeah. And I somebody sitting here, well, when I first got it. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, but see, I heard the sound, but I wasn't sure where it was coming from. Yeah, I said, no, yeah, they're like, but I didn't. That was odd. Yeah, that's like a brand new technique. Well, about 9. I think 16. I have a lot of people in the past. So, because I was hearing, the brain neurologically expects something. So if there's nothing coming, then it creates more. That's it. Yeah. So I have a lot of, yeah. Yeah, that's what happens. And so, yeah, so when there's noise like this, that makes it so it's kind of a mess, but, you know, it's like my sound from here is audio and station and how so, yeah, I was kind of sad that it happened. I was like, I wanted to worse job, so I didn't like it enough. I spent too much time. And I kept doing some jobs. Still on the couch. Right. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so like literally wow. And I would thank God I knew I have this fabulous that covers my daughter my blood pressure with a whip, so at 3, so, you know, I had to get to the hospital. Yeah. And with the cough.
So after 10,
Yeah. I'm like, okay. So I wish
that is something. No, I mean, this is like one of my friends that I've had since like,
I'm sure.
I mean, not just parallel.
Can't ask that. Oh, really? I took voice lessons this summer. And we did a sum, but we traveled hours to here. And I taught her. So I told her I'm looking at this is all I And I told her, yeah. And then I said, because she gets late, she's a soprano, and we're just going to until I'm comfortable with it, because I can't do this full working in hospital, done with that, then she told me, oh, she's going to see it. She told me that I'm actually but, yeah, and they were, you know, playing, and they're all, oh, Europe. So then I told her, okay, so once I'm totally comfortable, and I know everything, and I can follow, and I can get pulled by other voices, you know, and I can react to the decisions, and I'm so I have my plans outlined for the next few years. She and my friend, she would do when I go to see, when I don't know, she would get me up to and then I would see it, you know, and then I
Before we begin, we ask that if you have brought any kind of device that can make noise into the sanctuary, such as a cell phone, to please turn it to off, vibrate, or silent mode so as not to disturb the sanctity of our worship service. Before we begin the service, I'd like to give you a quick overview. If you need to leave the sanctuary to go to the restroom, we ask that everybody use the same exit, the exit through the social hall to my right, around the sanctuary wall, and we ask that you not leave the sanctuary when the congregation is standing up. We have bathrooms down the hall, in the office, and in the back of the social hall, all of which you may use. But in the likely event of an emergency, we ask that you take a moment to recognize all the emergency exits around the sanctuary that you may leave from. You do not have to leave from the outside door from which you came in. You just want to leave through the internal doors and get to the nearest external door. If there is any kind of emergency, we do have an AED machine in the office. I know I sound a little bit like a flight attendant, but we are on a spiritual journey. Cruising at an altitude of 1 handbreadth between heaven and earth. And in the event of a water landing, please find someone full of hot air to use as a flotation device. A reminder about our service. We have 2 interpreters this morning. Jen told me she was going to be back, but she's not, and that's okay. Instead, we have Sheila Kettering and Linda Green. It is Linda, isn't it? It is now. Okay. We are grateful that you are here to share your gifts of inclusion. We also offer CART, which is a screen that offers the closed captioning of the service. Finally, we are all using the same prayer book. So we don't have 2 different versions anymore. We have 2 different days. We have gold for Rosh Hashanah and silver for Yom Kippur. But these prayer books now match the prayer books that we use for every worship service, including Shabbat, Slichot, and for our Shiva and Minyanim. You will notice that a few of the words have changed. For instance, we no longer say hakol, but we say metim during the Amidah. And that is the change that the R&R committee decided upon to reflect a more traditional liturgical return. I'll be explaining the changes in the new prayer book during the service as well. But we take a moment to pause and begin our journey toward holiness and wholeness with the singing of Ve'al Kulam.
Itbarach
It is my pleasure to invite forward at this time Deanna Levin, Ken Markwell, Tammy Lefkowitz, Cynthia Ellis, Nathan Fruin, Paul Farber, and Joel Spenadel. We continue in our prayer book on page 138 with the singing of Ma Tovu. We continue on page 139.
Deepest good. When I sort through the layered texture of what clutters and claims my spirit, I find you, deepest good, in residence. You shine like a piece of gold inside of me. In that tranquil, secluded district of soul, I discover my true, unblemished nature. Teach me that there is much more to me than just my struggle and my failure. Absorb me in the jewel of your love until I am fully one with your goodness.
We continue on page 142.
for those who study Torah. His brother took Joseph and cast him into the pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. Why does the verse tell us that there was no water? If the pit was empty, is that not obvious? It means that there was no water, but there were snakes and scorpions within. Our sages teach water represents Torah, source of our life and sustenance. When the mind is empty of Torah, snakes and scorpions will enter. Fill your mind with wisdom, with moral values and teachings. You will have no room for what is vulgar, trivial, or unworthy. And so it is written, those who love your Torah find peace. Guided by your words, they will not stumble. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asot b'derei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, supreme power of the universe. You sanctify our lives with mitzvot and give us the sacred obligation of learning and living Torah.
We continue in our prayer book on page 164. We read responsively.
Blessed is the one who spoke the world into being. Praised is God. Praised the one who is ever creating. Praised the one who creates with a word. Praised the one whose vision is made real. Praised the one who loves the earth. Praised the one who loves earth's creatures. Praised the one whose worshipers know goodness. Praised the one whose life and being last forever. Praised the one who rescues and sets free. Blessed is your name. Our sovereign, we praise you with songs of celebration. Your oneness is the life of the cosmos.
We continue in our prayer book on page 168. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, o jehalalucha selah. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, ashrei ha'am sha'adonai Elohav. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They shall sing of your praises forever, Selah. Happy the people. Happy the people whose God is Adonai. We continue on page 172. From Egypt you redeemed us, Adonai our God, and from a world of slavery you saved us. In times of hunger you fed us, in times of plenty you nourished us. You turned our blight to blessing, spared us from suffering, and rescued us from the sword. Your mercy supports us, and your love abides, now as in the past. Never forsake us, Adonai our God, never turn away. Holy One, infinite, your power, radiant, your glory, unbounded, your might, awe-inspiring, your works. HaMelech, majestic God, today enthroned beyond time and space. Let's read together on page 173. Eternally present, your name is hallowed on high. And the psalmist sang, rejoice in Adonai, you're righteous. Let the upright adore you with praise. We continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 176.
God. וישכבה, ויתפאר, ויתרומן, וינשא, וירדור, וירעלה, וירעלל, שמי דקודשך. לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה.
We continue with Baruch Hu, which can be found in our prayer book on page 178. We ask that all who are able to do so at this time to please rise. Please be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvareh choshech, oseh shalom uvareh et hakol, hameir la'aretz valadarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokhma asita, mal'a ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Elohim, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al me'orei or she'asita va'aricha selah, or chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizkeh ulanu me'ira le'oro, Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot.
We continue on page 183.
You love us by helping us grow. You give us Torah, a ladder for the soul, words that draw us upward. Every mitzvah, an invitation to climb. Forge and kiln and crucible to purify our hearts. You give us Torah. You love us by helping us grow.
We continue on page 185.
Adonai Echad, we proclaim you one. You are the one who unites all things, who links life to life in a sacred chain. The force anchored in the soil, breathe air into our lungs. Our faces are reflected in the creatures of earth. We carry the sea within us. Our fate is connected to rivers and deserts. Our family a many-branched tree of life. All beings intertwine in you. All are encompassed in Adonai Echad. Thus no man is an island, no soul exists apart. To say Echad is to know this truth, to see the world whole, humankind undivided. Precious and holy are these words we speak. Adonai Echad, we proclaim you one. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'yamo Yisrael be'ahava. You have singled out your people Israel with love.
It is my pleasure to invite forward at this time Kai Rolinsky, Gabe and Susie Ein, Larry Margolis, Jeff Utney, Barbara Margolis, and Alex Schwartz. We continue in our prayer book with Shema, which can be found on page 186 and 187, and if you are able to do so, please rise.
Shema.
continue with Via Hafta on page 188.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשופך ובקומך ובשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לשותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue on page 192.
True and steadfast is this teaching, beloved and treasured, a source of wonder, a fount of goodness, a thing of beauty and ours for all time. And true it is, the eternal God is our sovereign, the rock of Jacob, our protecting shield. Through all generations, God's name lives on, God's throne stands firm, God's dominion prevails. God's grandeur and faithfulness endure through eternity. God's words are precious, they will live forever.
From Egypt you redeemed us, Adonai, our God, and from the slave house you set us free. For this, the people who felt your love exalted you, and the ones you found precious sang hymns of praise, blessing, and thanks to the living God who reigns forever. High and exalted, inspiring wonder, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive, redeems the oppressed, and sustains the poor. God responds to the cry of our people, their prayer in time of need. Sing praise to God Most High, most blessed source of blessing, as Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang this joyous song to you.
We continue with Micha Mocha on page 196. continue on page 198. In the depth of night, by the edge of the river, Jacob was left alone. In heartfelt longing in the temple of God, Hannah uttered her prayer alone. In the barren wilderness, in doubt and despair, Elijah found God alone. On the holiest day in the Holy of Holies, the high priest entered alone. We are bound to one another in myriad ways, but each soul needs time to itself. In solitude we meet the solitary one. Silence makes space for the still small voice. For the psalmist says, deep calls unto deep. From the depth of our soul, we seek what is most profound. We continue with Avot, Gevurot, and Zochrenu on the bottom of page 198. If you are able to do so, please rise. Please be seated. before we recite Unatana Tokef and sing it, I direct your attention to the study text on page 206. That which is highlighted in blue is meant to be taken as a meditation. So we pause for a few moments to study some texts about Unatana Tokef. We continue with the singing of Unatana Tokef on page 208.
Unatana Tokef Kedushat Hayom. Unatana Tokef Kedushat Hayom. Kihu Nara Be'ayom. Ovot Hinaseh.
This Unatana Tokef prayer, this haunting poem from the Middle Ages, is one we say all throughout the high holidays. And although it can be very troubling, there is a wonderful message at the end that no matter what, we can always still help and improve the world. We continue on page 212. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? Who by war and who by beast? Who by famine and who by drought? Who by earthquake and who by plague? Who by strangling and who by stoning? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will be tranquil and who will be troubled? Who will be calm and who will be tormented? Who will live in poverty and who in prosperity? And who will be humbled and who exalted? And we continue together in the English on the top of page 214. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. You are everything that we praise for you, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. We who are mortal, our origin is just, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. And together on the bottom of page 216, but for you, ever-living sovereign, the time has no limits. Your presence surrounded by days and years everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your glory is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. In our name you have linked with yours. We rise now as we turn to page 218 for the Kiddushah.
Mekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, ki shem shemati shimo tobi shmei marom, kakatuv al yad neviecha, v'kara zel zeh ve'amar. Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir, Ma'adir Shimcha, V'cho Oretz. Baruch Kavod Adonai, Vehu yashmienu v'rachamav le'enei kol chai. Yimlach Adonai le'olam, Elohai Yitzion, le'dor v'ador, le'dor v'ador. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
may be seated as we turn now to page 230.
You chose us with love to be messengers of mitzvot, and through us you made known your aspirations. Among all the many peoples, you gave us a pathway to holiness. Among all the great nations, you uplifted us and made yourself our sovereign. And so we seek you and serve you and celebrate our nearness to your presence. Your great and sacred name has become our calling. In your love eternal, our God, you have given us this Yom Kippur, a day on which our wrongs are forgiven, a day of sacred assembly, a day to be mindful of our people's going out from Egypt.
We continue on page 233.
Eternal our God, remember us. Amen. Be mindful of us. Amen. And redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing. Amen. Favor us with words of deliverance and mercy. Show us the depth of your care. God, we await your redemption, for you reign with grace and compassion.
We continue in the middle of page 235.
A teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Your fellow human being is a mirror for you. If there is love and compassion in your soul, you will see the goodness in others. If you see a blemish in another, it is your own imperfection you encounter. Take careful note of the flaws you perceive in others. This is a lesson for you. They are your own flaws set before you, a reminder of your own spiritual work.
We continue on the top of page 240.
Modim anachnu lach shata hu Adonai Eloheinu Elhei avotenu v'imotenu v'olam va'ed Zur hayenu magen ishenu atahu l'dor v'dor Na'odel lacha saper techilatecha. God who is ours, God of all generations, to you we are grateful forever. Rock and protector of our lives, your saving power endures from age to age. We thank you and tell the tale of your praise, your power in our lives, your caring for our souls, the constant miracle of your kindness. Morning, noon, and night, we call you goodness, for your compassion never ends. We call you mercy, for your love has no limit. We call you hope, now and for all time.
It is my pleasure to invite up Lisa Finucane, Mike Fields, Larry, and Lori Feldman as I invite the congregation to please rise in either body or spirit as we turn to page 244. Eloheinu velohei avotenu v'imotenu, barchenu baracha, hashmumelet haktuva, habatorah, ha'amurah, mefi kohanim, am kedusha ka'amor.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yikunecha. Adonai panav elecha vayasem lecha shalom.
And give thee peace.
And give thee peace. And give peace. And give thee peace. And give thee peace. And
Please be seated. We continue now on page 246 with the Sim Shalom.
Shalom,
We turn now in our Machzorim to page 252 for the Avinu Malkeinu, as I invite the congregation to please rise in either body or spirit.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, the strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Va'al Olalenu Vitapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Dever Vecherev Vera'av Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, all the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kol Tsar Umastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Malei Yadenu Mi Birchotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, Harem Karen Mishichecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, Na Al Teshivenu Rekam Milifanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalbel Berachamin Uvratzon Et Tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Imanu Lema'an Shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Lema'ancha Im Lo Lema'anenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ele Ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, Patach Sha'arei Shamayim Litfilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu Chus V'Racham Aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Va'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Anenu Malkeinu, Leibanu Masim, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, V'hoshienu, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed,
Please be seated. We come now to Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of the Torah. And in a moment, Larry Feldman will read a short reading about bringing the Torah into our midst. But something that this particular prayer book has brought back is something from the more traditional side, if you will, the benching of Gomel, or the Birkat HaGomel. This is a tradition done in the conservative or Orthodox traditions, where those who have suffered from a near-death experience, someone who has been cancer-free for a period of time and wants to mark an anniversary, someone who in the past year who has given childbirth, another harrowing experience, and remember that for many millennia was a very dangerous position. 1 in 4 women would not survive childbirth. They would bench Gomel. So the editors of this prayer book have brought back the Birkat HaGomel. And Lori Feldman will do a reading, and I will invite everyone who has suffered a near-death experience or wants to mark an anniversary of being free from illness for a certain period of time to rise and to bench Gomel or to recite the blessing. And we as a congregation will bless and affirm their journey by answering their recital of their blessing. The benching of Gomel can be found on page 261. I give that to your attention so you can study it between now and the time that we actually do it. And you can decide whether or not you want to stand up. This is not to embarrass you, but rather to affirm that you have gone through something harrowing and you have survived it, to say thank you. So we come now to Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah. We continue on page 254.
Bringing the Torah into our midst. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a meditation to remind us what we strive for, a chant that binds us to the chain of generations. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, a moment of purest solidarity with our people's hopes and history, an invitation to affirm or dissent, to challenge or believe, to ask why or say amen. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, flowing like waters that renew the spirit, refreshing and sweet to nourish the soul. Let the reading of Torah be like prayer, every word a blessing, every verse a conversation with God.
We continue on page 255 with Ein Kamocha.
Ein kamocha, Elohim Adonai, en kama asecha, malchutecha malchut olamim, umemshalcha b'chol dor v'ador.
Adonai, Adonai, Rachum v'nachun, Erech Apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notzor chesed lalafim, Notzor avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving and true, showing mercy to the 1000th generation, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Torah,
seated.
A teaching of our sages. In the presence of the sacred scroll, we give thanks for the blessings in our lives. Rav Judah said in the name of Rav, who should offer thanksgiving? Those who have completed an arduous voyage, those who have recovered from an illness or injury, and prisoners who have been set free. In the midst of the congregation, we honor those who have come through times of challenge, difficulty, or danger. Today we celebrate their survival. Together we give thanks for the resilience of the body, for the strength of the human spirit, for the precious gift of life experienced with new intensity when life has been at risk.
So at this time, I invite those who are comfortable doing so to please rise individually, and we will recite on page 261 the prayer of thanksgiving, Birkat HaGomel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hagomel lechayim tovot, shegam elaini kol tov. Blessed are you, our eternal God. Your majesty fills the universe. Through your generosity, I have experienced your goodness. And so we say as a congregation, the third paragraph down, together, Amen. Mi shegmalchem kol tov, hu yigmelchem kol tov selah. May the source of goodness bring you goodness at all times. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to invite forward, for the honor of reading and blessing the Torah, Mark Turner, Barbara Turner, Colleen Nyland, Esther Winograd, Miles Evans, Jacob Spenadel, and Ann Stein. Our Torah portion this morning, Nitzavim, is taken from the book of Deuteronomy, and it begins as Moses gathers together every member of the Jewish people for the last time in his life to initiate them into the eternal covenant with God. Moses warns the Israelites not to be tempted by the evil idolaters who surround them and live in the surrounding areas, to avoid rationalizing inappropriate conduct by saying, God will forgive me, and to always maintain the belief that God is the ultimate source of our redemption. Although people may sin, eventually we can repent and be redeemed through prayer, through repentance, and through acts of goodness. And so we continue with Parashat Nitzavim, the reading of Nitzavim. The good news is, this year, we don't have to say, this part is not found in your prayer book. Like the ragu spaghetti sauce, it's all in there. And you can follow along on page 266. Ya'amod Menachem Mendel ben Simcha Shmuel Aliyah HaTorah Ta'amod Bela bat Avraham ve'eta Likro HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai HaBorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaBorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar
Atem nitzavim, hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem, rashechem shivtechem, v'zotrechem kol ish Yisrael. Tabchem nishechem v'gercha asher b'kerev machamecha mehotev etzecha ad shoev memecha. L'vraka bivrit Adonai Elohecha uvalato asher Adonai Elohecha koret imcha hayom.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emes, hayei olam natan noten. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Ta'amod Yonah bat Yaakov v'Ruth la'aliyat Torah. Ta'amod Esther bat Miriam likro haTorah.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
למען הקים אותך היום לא לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים, כאשר דיבר כך וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב. ולא אתכם לבדכם אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת, כי עת אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ועת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום, כי אתם ידעתם את אשר ישיבנו בארץ מצרים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'yehayei olam natan v'tofenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amdu Mordechai Avraham ben David uPriya la'aliyah haTorah. Ya'amod Avraham ben Yaakov uBela la'aliyah haTorah. Ta'amod Chana bat Hershel likro haTorah.
Okay, right? Go. Right. Okay, go.
Baruch
Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Sorry about that. Oh my God, sorry.
Noten haTorah.
Amen. V'hiya ki yava'u alecha kol hadvarim ha'elak habracha v'haklala asher natati lefanecha v'shivta el levavka uvkol hagoyim asher hidiyecha Adonai Elohecha shema. V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha v'shimata b'kol kuchol asher anoki mitzavacha hayom ata uvanecha b'kol levavka uvkol nafshecha. V'sham Adonai Elohecha et shavutcho v'rikamecha v'shav v'kibetzecha mikol העמים אשר הפיצך אדוני אלוהיך שמע. אם יהיה נידך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך. והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך ורישת והביאך והרבך מאבותיך. ומל אדוני אלוהיך את לבבך ואת לבב זרעך לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך. למען חייך.
Amen. Yasher koach. We invite forward at this time Ken Siegel, Deanie Grossman, Susan Rothschild, Gail Cresswell, Michael Stoller, Michaela Ray, David Wood, and Marilyn Wigder. Ya'amod Yitzchak ben Matityahu v'chaya la'aliyah ha'torah. Ta'amod Dina bat Esther Reina likro ha'torah.
You're fine, you're fine.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'notan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ונתן אדוני אלוהיך את כל העלות האלה על אוהביך ועל שנאיך אשר רדפוך. ואתה תשוב ושמעת בקול אדוני ועשית את כל מצוותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום. והותירך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשה ידיך בפרי בטנך ובפרי בהמתך ובפרי אדמותיך לטובה. כי ישוב אדוני לסוס עליך לטוב כאשר סוס על אבותיך, כי תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך, לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו, הכתובה בספר התורה הזה, כי תשוב אל אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam atah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ta'amod Shulamit bat Ruma Gittel la'aliyah ha'torah. Ta'amod Gila bat Yehoshua likro ha'torah.
Baruch atah Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
כי המצווה הזאת אשר אנוכי מצווך היום לא נפלאת הוא ממך ולא רחוקה הוא. לא בשמיים היא לאמור מי יעלה לנו השמימה ויקחך לנו וישמיענו אותה ונאסנו. ולא מערב לים הוא לאמור מי יעבור לנו אל עבר היום ויקחך לנו וישמיענו אותה ונאסנו. כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד בפיך ובלבך לעשותו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notah b'chokeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Ya'amod leib Moshe ben Yechiel Shia v'chalki bella la'aliyah haTorah. Ta'amod Masha bat Racholea likro haTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachartanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ra'eh natati lefanecha hayom et hachayim ve'et hatov ve'et hamavet ve'et harav asher anochi matzavcha hayom La'ahava et Adonai Elohecha Lelechet Bidrachav V'lishmar Mitzvot V'chitva V'mishpotecha V'hayita V'ravita Uverachecha Adonai Elohecha ba'aretz asher ata ba'shama l'rishto ve'im pan yifne levavcha v'lo tishma v'nidachta V'hishtachavita le'Elohim acherim v'avatem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tokeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those who are ill and in need of healing in our communities and in our families. We think this morning of Aaron Alcock, Norm Block, Jim Hines, Carol Stewart, Bobby Takiff, Michael Swibel, Elwood Frederick Bryan, Marlene Neurater, Andrea Thompson, Sheila Alterman, Phyllis Simon, Linda Fox, Firstman, Miguel Leon, Bruce Mayer, Andrea Thompson, Joseph Limordino, and all who suffer, whom we know not by name. Misha Berach, Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, V'Yaakov, Ve'imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, V'Leah, Hu Yivarech, V'Yirapeh et Kol Cholei Yisrael, V'Yishlach Lahem Bimheira, Refuah Shlema, Refuah Tanefesh, Refuah Taguf, V'Nomar. Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are stricken, May the Holy One of Praise mercifully restore them to health and to vigor. May God grant them health of body, health of spirit, and of mind. And let us say, Amen. We invite forward at this time Barbara Tischler and Janet Widmeyer. We continue with the raising of Torah on page 274. Ya'amod David Gershon ben Avraham v'Sara Hagba Ta'amod Malka bat Dina Golelet. Will the congregation please rise? Please be seated. Our Haftarah this morning comes from the book of Isaiah, and it carries the message that God does not desire our fasts, that fasting alone is not enough unless there is a moral and ethical foundation to this ritual behavior. We can follow along with the blessings before Haftarah on page 275, followed by the Haftarah reading on page 277.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divrechem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Abocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Cry from the depth, says God. Do not hold back. Lift up your voice like the shofar. Tell my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sin. Yes, they seek me daily, as though eager to learn my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and has not abandoned God's law. They ask of me the right way, eager for God's nearness. They say, "Why did we fast, and you do not see it? We afflict ourselves, and you do not know it." Because even on your fast day, you think only of desire, while oppressing all who work for you. Because your fasting is filled with strife, and with callous fist you strike. No, your fasting this day will not lift up your voice before heaven. Is this the fast I desire, a day to afflict body and soul? Bowing your head like a reed, covering yourself with sackcloth and ashes? Do you call this a fast, a day worthy of the favor of Adonai? Is not this the fast I desire, to break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke, to let the oppressed go free and release all those enslaved? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and to take the homeless poor into your home and never to neglect your own flesh and blood? Then shall your light burst forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall quickly heal. Your righteous one leading the way before you, the presence of Adonai guarding you from behind. Then when you call, Adonai will answer, and when you cry, will respond, I am here. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the malicious word, if you offer your compassion to the hungry and satisfy the suffering, then shall your light shine through the darkness, and your night become bright as noon. Adonai will guide you always, slake your thirst in parched places, give strength to your bones. You shall be like a well-watered garden, an unfailing spring. From you they will rebuild ancient ruins, lay foundations for ages to come, and you shall be called the one who mends the breach and brings back the streets for dwelling. If you cease to trample Shabbat, stop pursuing your affairs on my holy day. If you call Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Adonai honored, and if you honor God by not doing business or speaking of everyday matters, then shall you take pure delight in Adonai. I will lift up your journey on earth to the highest of places and nourish you from the heritage of your father, Jacob. For thus spoke Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el hane'eman, ha'omer v'yoseh, ha'midaber u'mkayem, shekol divarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah v'ahavotah, v'al hanviim v'ayom ha'kippurim hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, limchila v'lislicha v'l'ha'apara l'chavod u'tifaret al hakol. Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach umvachim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed, udvarcha emet v'kayom lahad. Baruch atah Adonai melech malchil v'soleach le'avonotenu v'la'avonot amo beit Yisrael, u'ma'avir ashmotenu b'chol shana v'shana, melech hakol haaretz, melech kadesh Yisrael v'yom ha'kippurim.
It is my pleasure to invite up Seth Werlinski and Jack and Judy Freed. We turn now in our Machzorim to page 288 for our prayer for the state of Israel.
Avinu, you who are high above all nation states and peoples, Rock of Israel, the one who has saved us and preserved us in life, Bless the state of Israel, first flowering of our redemption. Be her loving shield, a shelter of lasting peace. Guide her leaders and advisors by your light of truth. Instruct them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect our Holy Land. Deliver them from danger. Crown their efforts with success. Grant peace to the land, lasting joy to all of her people. And together we say, Amen. Amen.
I invite everyone to please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark. And turn to page 290. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. All praise God's name, for God's name alone is truly sublime.
Please be seated. We come now to our vidui section. The vidui are the confessionals that we do not only on Yom Kippur, but if you notice, I'm wearing a white kittel or a white robe. This kittel or robe is to be seen as the traditional burial shroud that one should be buried in. We don't get buried in Armani suits. Instead, we are buried in our kittel, in our white shroud, to show that in death all are equal. That is the Jewish tradition. And so we clergy and choir stand before you in our white kittel to show that we are all equal. When we do these vidui confessionals, we do them as a collective community to show that we have equally sinned when any of us sinned, but also to not single out an individual in embarrassment. And so we continue, I'm cutting two songs, Greg, with Ashamnu, On page 296, first we will read the English. I will ask you to rise, and then we will sing. We continue on page 296. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Please rise for Ashamnu. We will first read the English collectively on the bottom of page 296. Together, of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violently slander. We devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill. We spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Seated. It is my pleasure to invite forward Joe and Debbie Shudroff, Diane and Don Rubicek, Ed Silverstein, and Kim Leffert. We continue in our prayer book on page 298. No? We continue in our prayer book with the Vidui Rabbah, the long confession. And instead of doing our usual, pay attention, Greg, instead of doing our usual long Vidui, I thought it might be interesting to do the short Vidui on page 307. I would like us to read this responsively, followed by Ve'al Kulam. Okay, so on page 307, we continue with, we confess our sins against the earth, we commit ourselves to saving it. Together, we have assaulted our planet in countless ways. We have blamed others for the spiraling, deepening crisis. We have consumed thoughtlessly and irresponsibly. We have driven myriad species to the point of extinction. We have exhausted irreplaceable resources. We have failed to transcend borders and act unselfishly. We have given in to our many appetites and our gluttony. We have harmed beyond repair the habits of living beings. We have ignored the signs of change in our climate and our seasons. We have jeopardized the well-being of future generations. We have known the problem but left problem solving to others. We have lost sight of our role as God partners in creation. We have mocked cynically those who love creatures great and small. We have neglected the environment. We have overpopulated our cities and overfished our oceans. We have polluted seashore and sky, fertile soil and freshwater springs. We have questioned and doubted solid evidence of danger. We have ravaged the old-growth forests, ecosystems created over centuries. We have spewed poison into the bloodstream of our land, its lakes and estuaries. We have transformed dazzling beauty into industrial ugliness. We have used shared resources for personal gain and corporate profit. We have violated the commandment, do not destroy. We have wasted precious treasures, our God-given gifts. We have exploited the weakest and most vulnerable in our midst. And yet we yearn to be better guardians of this earth and the fullness thereof. Let us be zealous now to care for this unique corner of the cosmos, this planet, our sacred home. We continue with Va'al Kulam on page 306. On page 308, we take a moment for introspection and silent confession. We continue on page 310 with the singing of We Are Your People. We continue on page 311.
If I could see God's face within my heart, I'd see the face of a gardener, compassionate to weed and flower alike, patiently pruning, graciously planting, loving the endless hours of tending and nurturing the earth, seeds, roots, all that grows, and true to the essence of the gardener's work, forgiving the fallen branches, the withered petals, the cracked stones, the broken stems.
If I could see God's face within my heart, I'd see the human face in 1,000 acts of mercy, the one who gives bread to the hungry and shelters the lost, and who hears the voice of grief and makes room for the stranger, who brings relief to the blind, the bent, the unjustly imprisoned, and is true to the essence of holy work, resisting evil, healing brokenness, easing pain, and in the end, forgiving ourselves as God forgives us.
We continue on page 312.
Rabbi Nachman of Breslau taught, always look for the good in yourself. And remember, joy is not incidental to your spiritual quest. It is vital. For so it is written in Isaiah, you will go out through joy and be led forth in peace. Focus on the good in yourself. Take joy in what is good, and you will be led forth from inner darkness.
Open your heart, he said. Open your eyes. See the truth and forgive. I can't, I said, through clenched teeth. It's this way, he said. The Endless One made a world wild and chaotic, light and darkness, birthing and dying, joy and sorrow. All of us are enmeshed in good and evil, caught by forces beyond our control. We act in ignorance and confusion, blindly lashing out. But I'm hurt, I said. Listen, he said, you expect order. You think you can exert control. This is the source of your pain. The one who hurt you is trapped, as you are trapped, in compulsion and fear. Know this, he said. All of life, havel havalim, a breath of air, a bubble that bursts in an instant. So learn to live with impermanence, accept uncertainty, and your suffering will ease. You cannot guarantee security, he said, but you can hold fast to wisdom. Look at the world with new eyes, he said. Let go of expectations, and you will relinquish anger. In their place, love and compassion will blossom. And then the clenched fist of your heart will open, and you will forgive.
We continue with the singing of Hashivenu on page 316. In the Hebrew, it is the fourth line down.
Well, good Yantiv, everyone. So over the summer, between my junior and senior year of college, I went on the program Birthright. Now, a lot of you may know this program, but it brings for free Jewish college students or any Jews of that age, and actually now beyond to the age 32, to Israel, as I said, for free. And I was able to use this program. It was a wonderful program that I had a great time on, but also to get to Israel because I had also secured a position for a summer semester of study at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And although I was already, about to start my senior year of college, this was my first time to Israel. And I had planned to stay for about 3 months. There was the initial trip of Birthright, about a month in between the programs, and then a month and a half of study. Now, Birthright was great. I really did enjoy it. But I knew from my professors in Israeli politics that we weren't actually going to get a full picture of the land, as it's really only 10 days. And of course, as anyone who's been to Israel for a 10-day program, there's a lot to see. So they advised me to travel all around of Israel during that month between Birthright and the study abroad. And although the program of study was actually in Israeli politics, I think I perhaps learned more about Israel in that month between than I did in either of those two formal curricula. Now, I thought the best way of really kind of doing this month was to grab a cheap hookah, stay in hostels, and make some new friends. And it actually worked pretty well. And I ended up joining a small group who were doing all kinds of things. One very exciting thing that we went to do was we went to a lot and we all got our scuba diving licenses. And it was definitely a lot of fun. But however, there are two events which happened that month that I think left a very big impact on me. The first was a taxi ride with, unfortunately, a very racist Israeli who spoke about never wanting to pick up any Arabs in his cab. Now, actually, after challenging him on this, I was treated to a whole litany of reasons for that view and learned about some of the real prejudice that was actually embedded in that culture. Now, the summer I did this little adventure was 2007. And for the other story that impacted me, the history buffs among us might remember that as the summer when the terrorist group Hamas, who had been responsible for many deaths of both Israelis and Palestinians, came to power in the Gaza Strip. Now, one of the friends I had made suggested that we go over to the Sinai for just a little bit before everything started happening in Gaza. And I was happy to come along. But in Egypt during that time, it was an understatement to say that things were getting very tense. We heard real conversations of people talking about how Jews were responsible for all of this. And I was very happy when we were able to get back to Israel, and crossing that border I still consider to be one of my happiest moments. So, a few months ago, I was at an event all about social justice called the Consultation on Conscience. And at the beginning of this event, we had discussed Israel, and a question was raised. The question was asked, why do we not see as much engagement or more disengagement among our American Jewish institutions with Israel? And the oft most repeated answer to this came from, it's a very complicated situation, there are lots of strong feelings on all sides, and we really don't want to talk about it. And however, I would say I really didn't like that answer. And I think in a lot of ways shying away from the complication will lead to a larger disengagement with Israel among Israel and the Jewish diaspora. And I think that this disengagement is a very real problem. In an article by Amit Efrati, written last year for the Institute for the National Security Studies, she was able to show a rift with American and Israeli Jews. Now, this is coming from many factors, but there are three that she highlighted that I thought were very true. The first is that there are uncomfortable relationships being valued among the Israeli authorities, which I'll explain in a little bit. The second, that there are questions of ethics when it comes to the treatment of the Palestinian people and Israeli Arabs. And third, that there is a big disconnect between progressive religious Judaism outside the land of Israel and ultra-Orthodox Judaism within it. Now, an example of that first issue, the uncomfortable relationships, would be that of a pastor named John Hagee, who you may know spoke when the American embassy was moved to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv 2 years ago. Now, I'm not here to talk about that move, but just that the speaker who was chosen was a pastor who once said that the Holocaust was the will of God to punish all the Jews who didn't move before to the land of Israel. So I think that is definitely one relationship in which we're uncomfortable. There's another relationship between perhaps Bibi, the prime minister, current prime minister, although we'll talk about that in a moment, Bibi Netanyahu, and other world leaders who rule in ways completely counter to the majority of how American Jews feel that are ethical, and in fact, a lot of them are guilty of several human rights abuses. An illustration of the second issue, of the atrocities being committed by the Israeli government, is that we see bulldozing of Palestinian homes, killing of protesters, and even a law which puts Arab Israeli citizens as a second tier to Jewish ones that we saw last year with the nation-state law. All issues that if they came up in the United States, we would be fighting against them, we would be addressing them, but we don't always for Israel. Now finally, we have this big issue of progressive Judaism. Now still today, most Israelis would never care too much to walk into a synagogue. But, as the saying goes, the synagogue they don't walk into should be an Orthodox one. There is an Israeli progressive movement for progressive Judaism, and it is constantly under attack by both the government and the ultra-Orthodox community, who don't view progressive Judaism like they view other religions, but actually as an active threat to Judaism. We see things like plans for an egalitarian prayer space at the Wall scrapped, as the Prime Minister was caving to ultra-Orthodox demands. We hear stories of women being told to move to spots in public places so that men can be alone to daven there. To see progressive Israeli synagogues being vandalized by other Israelis, other Jewish people. And all this runs counter to the idea that Israel is the home for all Jewish people. Even a story of many of my female colleagues in my year in Israel when I was studying in rabbinical school who wore kippot, yarmulkes in Jerusalem, who were harassed. One case where people said that they should be actually stoned to death just for wearing a kippah. Now, a few weeks ago, there was an Israeli election. And to address some of these issues, these three big issues that were highlighted in this article, I think there are some hope with some of the new leadership who might take on some of these problems, which are leading to, I think, this bigger issue that I'm trying to highlight, the lack of engagement that American institutions are seeing with the land of Israel. However, it's also important to know that Israeli politics are also very complicated. Now, I led a discussion on the election a few weeks ago, and I will say I procrastinated from writing the sermon so I could get the most up-to-date information. But it seems currently that Bibi Netanyahu, who is the former prime minister, is right now tasked with forming the new government. However, everyone is waiting because he can't do that with his more centrist rival, someone named Benny Gantz, and they're all waiting to hear if he is indicted for corruption crimes. So it looks more and more like probably Benny Gantz, who is a little bit more to the left, will be the one forming the government. However, this would probably solve some of the rifts that I think the progressive religious Jewish among us in the United States might have. However, it also won't solve too much, although of course surprises always happen, and I think working towards a more sustainable peace process for the Israel and the Palestinian territories. Now, Daniel Gordis, an American-born rabbi who made Aliyah, shows this rift between the Jews in Israel and the Jews among the diaspora as something much more profound than just the current leaders, and two very different roles of two very different countries, the United States and Israel. In other words, this election may help, but it's still a distraction of some of the real differences between us. But it's also important to note that I think that Israel's main priority, of course, should not be to see how we as American or diaspora Jews feel about the things that they're doing. But it's also important to note that if we want Israel to be a place for all Jewish people, then all Jewish people, no matter where they are in the diaspora, should have a voice in that. Now, I'm sure that there are many here who do have answers to this conflict, but that's not really what I want this sermon to be about. This sermon is really to show that everything is complicated, but when we pull away because of that complication, because we have, of course, many things that we need to do in the United States, which are also very important, but when we pull away, it's more, we are actually disengaging with Israel, and that is, I think, a real concern. However, the word Israel means to struggle, and not just a struggle with anyone, but actually a struggle with God. A constant fight with us, with God, and with everyone else, for both a better understanding of a path forward and a fighting for that path. Now, the story that this word Israel comes from is the story of Jacob. Jacob, our patriarch, about to confront his brother, who the last time he saw had cheated him from his birthright. Jacob cheated his brother Esau from his birthright. Now, Jacob struggles the night before this meeting and fights with God, and at the end of that night receives the name Israel, the name which is extended to all of us, not just, of course, of Israel, but we are called the people of Israel, or sometimes just Israel, as one who struggles with God, with that which is sometimes most important. I think that this name is symbolic in telling us that there was never a time that this wasn't going to be a struggle, The answer to this issue of disengagement with Israel is to understand that it's complicated, but still to continue to engage. For our institutions to hear from many people from all sides, to learn and to go to Israel and experience it there. However, through that struggle, through the addressing of past misdeeds and understanding of others' perspectives, when Esau and Jacob and also Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, and Bilpah, everyone who was there, all met up again that following morning, they all embraced. They were united as a family, and they were able to show their love for one another. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that they didn't disagree on things. There, of course, was that struggle. But there is a struggle, and for us to be Israel, to be part of that struggle, we stand together. We have love and understanding for one another, even though we probably disagree a lot with the people that we're standing with, but that's okay. So the implication, I think, here is that we must include in our congregations all voices, even if the voice is saying which things that might run completely counter to our understanding of the right path forward in the situation. We cannot move forward, however, without hearing or learning of others' experiences. And it's also important to note that this is not altruistic, because as we open up these dialogues, the other people who we're hearing from also are influenced in understanding of what we have to say as well. Now, some good news, I think, in all of this is that we as a people are more poised with the idea of unity among dissension than most. Our tradition is opinions of different people with different perspectives. And it even says that this disagreement, that machlochet, as it's called in Hebrew, is essential for moving forward, as we can't know what is right until we've heard from all sides. And we must give time and voice to others, as well as share as our own views ourselves. So going forward, I think we need to hear from Palestinians whose lives have been altered by deaths of loved ones caused directly by our government, as well as Israelis who have been victims of terrorism. To hear from Jewish organizations from all over, whether the organization is AIPAC, and I know we have lots of people here who go to the AIPAC conference every year, or the organization might be J Street, who is now kind of the middle organization, or even to hear from some of the much more extreme and far left organizations of Jewish Voices for Peace. We can disagree. We're going to disagree. In fact, I don't know if we would be Jewish if we didn't disagree. But we have to hear from the people who represent these groups, and not just from secondhand sources who create straw men based on their own agenda. Now, it might sound counterintuitive, but for American Jews to continue to engage in Israel, we must open our organizations wide enough to hear from voices which we may want to shut out. A good way to learn more about some of these paths forward, actually some things that we have coming up here at Etz Chaim, is on October 29th at 7 o'clock right here at Etz Chaim. There's an organization called Roots, which is Shorshim in Hebrew, a grassroots organization founded in actually one of the settlements in Israel that is dedicated to peace, though, through building relationships through Israelis and Palestinians. In addition to this, though, we can also become more involved with ARTSA, our Reform Zionist organization. We can work with the IRAC, the Israeli Religious Action Center, and be a partner for religious pluralism in Israel. We can take more trips to Israel and focus on learning about other narratives in the conflict, and focus on just bringing more and learning about more Israelis' perspectives. Now, of course, as I mentioned, some of us already go to AIPAC conference, but we can also expand and have people go to the J Street conference, or even send even more people to the AIPAC conference. We can put together a committee on Israel engagement and put together a programming calendar to really try and solve this issue of that disengagement. Now, as I mentioned, we're all coming with our own experiences and understanding of Israel. If we don't talk about these together, though, then those become the only view we have. Whether it was the tirade I heard from the cab driver, or the land of security looking after my own interests as I walked over that border, either one of those experiences individually would have given me a very different view of the country. Each one of our own experiences do the same. However, just sharing our own thoughts with others who have similar ideas leads, I think, actually more to disengagement. And synagogues and Jewish organizations who don't address the conflict at all for fear of angering viewpoints causes even more disengagement. So this path leads to a breakup in those Jewish organizations, when I think addressing them, addressing the conflict, addressing other viewpoints would lead even more to unity, but unity with multiple views. But, as I said, fortunately, our tradition knows what to do with multiple views and still be a continuing community. We've been doing it for 5,000 years. We don't know how to be a continuing community if we don't hear from others. Now, I know this is a topic with a lot of tension and a lot of thought and feelings from all sides. And if this sermon is something that is challenging, I would actually challenge you to get more involved in this area in the synagogue. However, as I mentioned, since I do love hearing more views, I am always willing to hear what I would consider a compliment to this sermon, is if you came up to me and said, "Rabbi, about your sermon, I disagree." So let us all this year be written in the book of life, and to all of you, Gemar Chatima Tova.
Before we close, a reminder that this is not the end of Yom Kippur service, but rather a break in continuation. We pick up again with the children's service at 1:15. At 2:15, a study group led by Ashley Rose, and our afternoon service followed by Yizkor and Ne'ilah starting at 3:30. We continue with our concluding prayer before the break on page 318. Strengthen us this day, and you say, Amen. Bless us this day. Amen. This day exalt us. Amen. Show us kindness this day. Amen. Inscribe us this day for a life of goodness. Amen. This day hear our cry. Amen. Now and always support us with the strength of your righteousness. Amen. We break now for Yom Kippur.
Hey.